Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerdlings of all ages, we are now in to the first series of the StarCraft 2 European National Finals. This is it. Sorry, the Continental Finals even. My goodness, it's been a very, very long road for both of these incredibly handsome Zerg players, but we're here. This is match number 1, spawning in the bottom left-hand position of Daybreak. Ladies and gentlemen, as the red Zerg player representing Team Acer, we have Nerchio. His opponent spawning in the top right position as the blue Zerg player representing Team Western Wolves, a massive rising star in the community and a Zerg not to be messed with. He is SortOf. This is going to be a pretty exciting stuff here, guys. ZVZ to kick us off with, and then later on I've been told I'm going to be casting Johnny Rico going up against Lowly as well, so a lot of fantastic talent here. There really are absolutely no easy matches. All of these players had to go through the Nationals and the combined European Nationals. In the case of Night End and Lowly, I think, the only two players to qualify from there to make it to these European finals. And I can tell you, those brackets were pretty darn tough. I mean, there really are no easy matches once it gets to this point, and these guys are competing for a chance to go to the World Championships in China, so that's going to be incredible stuff. We see both sides now taking their hatcheries first. Nothing terribly out of the ordinary at the moment. And still no pulls from either of them, just wanting to macro up as quickly as they can. Hatch first. Completely content to go into a macro game. You can see these overlords here. We actually have an overlord from Nerchio. If you take a look at your mini-map here, he's actually moving around about this location so he can come up and scout out the natural a little bit later, whereas SortOf is taking the, you know what, full steam ahead approach and just moving both overlords quickly to the natural. Not exactly game-changing stuff, but a nice little thing to notice, contrasting their styles just a bit there. Got gas and pool coming down for both players now as well. Work account fairly even, 17 to 60 in favor of Nerchio. Managed to squeeze one out, SortOf immediately taking that par. So guys, this is the European National Finals. Everything is going to be happening today and tomorrow. People watching from all around the world. There are bar crafts absolutely everywhere, including in London. If any of you happen to get to the Assembly House ridiculously early and are watching this match, hello to all you fine, fine people. And all I can hope for, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it, is that all of these games are incredibly good ones. In the meantime, the first lings popping out for both of our heroes over here. Nothing too much going on at the moment, just wanting to get a little bit of scouting information as to what their opponent is doing. Of course, there are overlords as well, but not wanting to head into the bases for fear of being taken down by a couple of queens, which are about to pop out from both players. We see metabolic boost now on the way for both of our Zergs. And these guys are very content just to sit back and continue playing 2-base, actually. We see no indication at the moment of grabbing a third, and we have the Baneling Nest going down from Nerchio as well as from SortOf. So it's like these guys are completely mirroring each other's builds at the moment. The Baneling Nest for SortOf possibly going to be used to form some sort of wall-off as well. And that could potentially be good for him, but also needs to be careful that might get sniped out. Not too much of an issue here, as long as you have some defensive Banelings of your own, though, of course. Overlord just going to be sitting around here, seeing the gas in the natural expansion of Nerchio, so knowing when Nerchio wants to be teching up, whereas Nerchio's overlords actually have no view of this gas whatsoever. And SortOf actually already taking his second gas at his natural. Note he does not take the gas at his main, because what you want to do is you want to take the second at the natural, third at the main, and the fourth at the natural, so that everyone doesn't mine out at the same time, so you don't get a base completely running out of gas at exactly the same time. But we do have an interesting development here, because it looks like Nerchio is going to be going for a relatively quick layer. Now that's going to be pretty interesting indeed. He's also getting all 3 of his other gases now, so he's going up to 4 gases and SortOf sees this happening, so he's going, wait, hold on a second, exactly what is going on here? A couple of lings here going to be scouting for Nerchio, sees that a gas has been taken at the natural expansion. Will he see that there's no gas in the main? And yes, he sees that. Okay, so he sees that SortOf is only on 2 gas right now, and SortOf sees that both gases at the natural expansion have been taken from Nerchio as well. That Overlord's still just sort of hanging tight there. Does Nerchio see it? He does, but he doesn't want to bother moving it away. So we're going to have a little bit of aggression coming out of here from SortOf, but the lair is now complete from Nerchio. Let's find out what he's going to do with it. That's going to be really interesting indeed. Do we have a lair coming out from SortOf yet? We do not. So SortOf just wanting to get a huge Baneling, Zergling aggression up here against the natural expansion. We have two spine crawlers right here. Some defensive Banelings on top of the ramp, which I really like, because SortOf's going to think, oh, I'm going to run past you and get up onto the top of the ramp, and then he'll be met by some Banelings possibly. Here we go, SortOf coming in now. Banelings and Zerglings absolutely everywhere. The Queen's trying to do as much as they can, but some Banelings get into the mineral line. A lot of drones going down there, and SortOf continuing to pile in those Banelings. It looks like not too many lost in the end, at least 6 or 7 though. No, only going to be 5, but SortOf continuing to rally more and more Zerglings and Banelings, and he really wants to finish this. And here's the problem for Nerchio at the moment. He's got his layer tech up, but he can't really afford to do anything with it because he has to spend this much money defending at the moment. He's got good positioning on his defensive Banelings here. SortOf actually morphing in a Baneling right in front of him. Oh no, 3 Banelings for 1 is not a trade you want to do there. And SortOf looking like he's going to be stabilizing slightly outside of the base. That's a lot of Banelings morphing in. He needs to be careful there. 3 Banelings come out from Nerchio. They do an incredible amount of damage, but there are still 2 Banelings in the middle line, and boom, a couple more drones go down. SortOf continuing to try and do as much damage to Nerchio as he possibly can. The worker count is 35 to 34 at the moment. This game is hanging in the balance, but the spine crawlers are down, and SortOf might be able to get a leg up here in game number 1. It looks like that lair from Nerchio is not going to be able to pay off. More and more drones getting taken down here as the spine crawlers get surrounded, and Banelings popping in into the main base as well. There are no more defensive Banelings for Nerchio. SortOf looking like he's going to be able to score a win in game number 1, trying to split his drones as best he can. A couple go down, but there are still 3 over here, and the number of workers killed is now 22. Things are not looking healthy for Nerchio at the moment. Now down to 23 workers supply to 36. SortOf is just going to non-stop continue to... Oh no! 2 Banelings for 4. Another fantastic trade for SortOf, but a good Baneling hit from Nerchio kills off a decent number of Lings. SortOf, though, now has a 25 army supply lead. We do have another spine crawler up, but I wonder if the long-term economic damage has been done. We have some Lings moving into the main base. Now this is going to be where the rest of the economic damage is done. And a good defensive Baneling hit there prevents SortOf from destroying those workers at the lair. Now, SortOf isn't actually streaming anything else across the middle of the map right now. It looks like he is actually content to sit back and macro up off of this, and I like this decision. Going for his lair and his Roach Warren as well. Note that he is now up 43 to 22 in terms of worker supply. So that is going to be fairly good for him as well. I mean, he can just hold on to this macro advantage and effectively win the game later on. Nerchio, unfortunately, did not get the early layer to pay off. He tried as hard as he could, but unfortunately the timing of SortOf's attack was just so unbelievably good there that Nerchio has no choice right now but to get his queens again, to slowly repopulate with some drones, and then try and get back on level pegging there. Nerchio going to be sending a couple of Banelings out into the center of the map because he really needs to do some economic damage to SortOf to try and even the tables here before anything particularly offensive happens from SortOf, because otherwise Nerchio is just going to be permanently 20 to 30 supply down. He does not want to have that, but there's not too much he can do about it at the moment. He is, though, going to be using that layer right now because, as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Spire has just gone down in the bottom left position of the Daybreak. Moving a couple of Zerglings now over to the right-hand side position. Note that the map vision for Nerchio is superb at the moment, but he still cannot see any of the tech that is inside SortOf's base. And SortOf, conversely, does have vision of that gap. So I think SortOf has slightly better vision. Overlord, they're getting driven away by the Queen. And don't forget those Lings that were doing so much damage early, and some more coming over now. Getting a good amount of scouting information and seeing that Nerchio went for that early layer. But the critical thing is, he does not yet see the Spire, so can the Mutas take SortOf by surprise? We'll have to wait and see. SortOf does have, oh my goodness, a lot of Banelings being hit here, and wow, that Baneling did so much damage, but didn't quite kill off all of these. Oh, there we go. He still has a decent number of Banelings though, but a lot of them are only 1 hit away. 8 of them still left, and now Nerchio going to be going for a counterattack with some Lings. Note that the infestation pit, by the way, which I think is in the natural expansion, there it is, already researching pathogen glands from SortOf, so this could counter the Muta style coming out from Nerchio very nicely indeed. And look at this, the Overseer is going to pop it. Is he going to see the Spire? The Spire? Yes, okay, he does. Just sees the Spire. So he knows that Mutas are likely going to be incoming very, very shortly indeed, but there are not too many of them. There were only 4 Mutas in production just now, if we take a quick look here. And that's because Nerchio is desperately trying to get his economy back on track. He is still at 60 supply versus the 87 of SortOf, so he's going to be struggling into the late game, but this is by no means a lost game. ZVZ is a very volatile mirror matchup, and a good engagement one way or the other could result in huge amounts of economic damage and potentially means that the game can swing around. But it will require Nerchio to seriously dig deep at the moment, because SortOf has just finished taking his third base. He's just finished grabbing his macro hatchery as well. So he is going to be looking to really ramp up the pressure with an incredible infestor timing very soon. Note that Nerchio is only just starting his third base here, while SortOf has already completed his. So these guys are effectively doing very, very similar things, but Nerchio is just doing it a lot slower because of SortOf's fantastic aggression early game when Nerchio gambled on that early layer. Now, I like what Nerchio is doing here with these Mutalisks. If we take a quick look, he's not actually going to try and harass and kill off all of these drones or anything like that. He is just going to be going around the map, trying to shut down the map vision of SortOf, destroying a couple of Overlords. We see Overlord speed actually being researched from SortOf now, and he's actually recalling everything from across the map. Look at his map vision. It's effectively confined to his 3 bases, with the exception of this one sneaky Overseer here that's going to be able to scout a fair amount of the base. I like this decision from SortOf, but it means that these mutas have bought Nerchio time, and time is what he needs right now, because he wants to make sure SortOf has as little map vision as possible, so that Nerchio can tech up however he wishes. We even see the Mutalisks, oh, very nice pickoff of that changeling there, moving back to destroy this Overseer on the left-hand side as well. And now SortOf officially has no map presence on Nerchio's half of the map. So that is mission accomplished as far as those 4 mutas are concerned, but he probably doesn't want to go to very, very heavy mutas, because these infestors tend to be countering them very well, which is exactly why he's going for infestors himself. And I like that decision coming out of Nerchio. So we have a couple of mutas just to shut down the map vision, and then we're going to be going for an extra bunch of mutas. But SortOf is having none of that. It looks like he wants to go for another timing. Okay, the Overlord sees everything, so Nerchio has time to get units in place to defend. Excellent fungal growth on those lings. You could not have asked for a better one. All of them go down, just a couple left. And that gets completely and utterly shut down. Nerchio needs to do that a couple more times to try and even up parity here in this game. He is in 109 supply to 132 of SortOf at the moment, and the work supply is 66 to 74. So Nerchio slowly catching up here as this Overseer sees that the infestors are moving out towards the center of the map, and even sees that a 4th base is going down now for SortOf. So this might trigger some sort of attack here from Nerchio. Oh, he's going to use the 4 mutas to try and harass a bit there, making these infestors use as much fungal growth as possible. At least 2 fungals have already been used here. I like that decision, trying to force as much energy out of them as he can, simply because he knows that these mutas are not going to be effective in the late game. In the meantime, though, where is his army? He's got a decent number of infestors. It looks like he's pulling it up at the 3rd, getting ready for a potential attack here. A couple of mutas really just here for decoration with the rest of this army here. He's moving out to the watchtower, and in the meantime, Nerchio just looking to cement his position at his 4th base. He has a decent amount of creep already spread here, so all 4 of his bases soon via here will also be connected via creep as well. That's going to be really good news for SortOf. If we take a look at the income tab, Nerchio is actually mining slightly more at the moment, but once this 4th base comes up, SortOf will skyrocket into the lead as he now moves his army out through the middle of the map. A couple of infested terrors dispatching the 2 scouting mutas, if you will. And now Nerchio going to be moving in. Nice fungal growth on the roaches, but he needs a little bit more than that, because SortOf is up to 192 supply. Nerchio now up to 168 himself with that newest round of units. And it looks like both of these Zerg players are just chilling out here for now. We've got a couple of links scouting in the 3rd base location, but nothing that will do any sort of damage whatsoever. SortOf possibly trying to stick a couple of roaches by. No, he's just looking for a good concave. Good fungals once again, but now SortOf with the fungals on Nerchio's army, and Nerchio is committed to trying to fight here. A lot of infested Terrans coming down, but look at this concave from SortOf. It is all over the top half of my screen. And we have the infested Terrans from both sides moving out, and it looks like SortOf is going to be able to steamroll this particular army, and Nerchio will not be able to keep hold of his fort. As long as he gets a couple more fungals, a couple of queens in the back here, will be able to help with some transfuses, which is fantastic. Good of SortOf to bring these queens with him, and Nerchio is forced to abandon this 4th base. This is not looking great here for Nerchio at the moment. SortOf now 193 supply to Nerchio's 138. In the meantime, Nerchio looking like he wants to reposition himself to defend his 3rd, because he anticipates SortOf trying to hit the 3rd instead of going up the ramp into the natural. I like this decision. We're going to have a bit of game of cat and mouse here, where SortOf might even reposition his army at the natural and just force Nerchio to go back and forth, until SortOf decides it's actually time. Now, he's got his 4th base up and mining now. He can probably saturate this with a couple more drones, and then he will certainly have a decent income advantage, but not until he saturates these mineral patches. Once he does that, he will be able to replenish his army very, very quickly indeed. And that's going to be useful because he's already maxed out. Nerchio is currently at 150 supply. So if SortOf can engage a 150 supply with his 200 supply and just constantly remax a bit faster as well, that's going to win him the game. But he needs to be able to do that. He needs that income from this 4th base, which admittedly he is now getting, and he needs to be able to engage Nerchio's army as well. If Nerchio does not give him a good engagement, Nerchio still stands a good chance here of turning his fate around in this game. This is definitely not over yet. Couple of roaches saying hello to each other, high-fiving with acid spit, because that's what roaches do. A little bit of creep getting taken out there. Ooh, need to be careful with that Overseer, because a couple of queens looking like, and that Hydralisk takes it down. Very, very good from Nerchio. More roaches giving a little bit of a high five here. Neither side really harassing. It'd be nice to see a bit of a Ling run by up here, maybe pick up this Infestor and go into the main or something like that. It'd be good to see Nerchio, for example, try and do some sort of run by against a 3rd base location, but both sides pooling as many resources as they can to holding with this army. I think SortOf has the advantage here simply because he has the larger numbers, so it would be a little bit nice to see him try and do some sort of run by. It appears we have a couple of infested Terrans here, not liking the presence of these Overlords much. Now, note that if there was Overlord speed, this Overlord would be 100% completely okay, but sadly not an upgrade that Nerchio has invested in this time, trying to move out to take the Watchtower. SortOf saying absolutely. Now, this one Roach moving the entire army back, but mate, I think you were just a little bit too brave there. There we go, and a massive engagement going on in the top here. SortOf using a lot of infested Terrans to buffer his army there, not allowing the infestors to get in, to get as many fungals as they otherwise would have liked, but Nerchio coming in from both sides, and this could be the engagement that he needs, because Nerchio now has a better concave. There are so many Hydralisks in the background. The problem with Hydras, of course, is that if they start getting hit by those roaches and infestors, they are so squishy and go down so unbelievably quickly. But Nerchio able to protect the Hydras, and look at how slow they move off creep as well, but able to protect them throughout that engagement, and he finally pushes SortOf back. Nerchio and SortOf now effectively on level pegging as far as supply goes, 186 to 195. And it looks like SortOf now deciding it would be a decent time for a Ling run by. He's going to be going straight up into the base, and there we go. With that speed, there is not too much Nerchio can do. A Baneling takes out 2 of them, but the rest of them going to try and surround and pick off a queen. He might be able to do so. Are we going to get a transfuse? Very, very nice picking off the queen there. And oh, if he even gets an infestor, that would be incredible, but sadly that is not the case. Another Ling run by going in to the 3rd base location. Excellent reactions there on Nerchio. Not the kind of stuff you would see on a regular human being as he fungles all of those Lings and tells them to GTFO. In the meantime, though, SortOf is just using this to buy himself time. He's got so much energy on these infestors that he has back home as well. If we take a look at the army supply, SortOf still has a slender advantage, and that's because Nerchio actually is taking the worker supply at this point in the game, and he is feeling the need to push forward. Now, it's all going to come down to how Nerchio handles these Hydralisks, ladies and gentlemen, because if these Hydras get fungled 2 or 3 times early on in the engagement, I can tell you right now, Nerchio is going to lose. Why? Because he'll simply have inferior roach numbers to his opponent. However, if he protects the Hydras very well, then SortOf is going to find it very difficult to deal with the insane amount of DPS that Nerchio has with this army, and that's what this last engagement likely is going to come down to. SortOf now, by the way, going to be going up to his Hive Tech as well, so we'll see what he decides to do with that. He's also getting himself a Spire, so I wonder if he wants to be going for Broodlords a little bit later on. Nice! Burrowed Zergling there, possibly going to use this drone to take it out. No, we've got 2 roaches for that, not a problem at all, as Nerchio grabs his 4th base, but note that SortOf already has his 5th base, rather, up and mining. Sorry, that is, of course, Nerchio's 5th. We have a bunch of changelings just chilling out here in the top left, so SortOf knows that his opponent is expanding as well. And it looks like, wow, that entire group of slow Lings, totally not giving the game away there, just going to be moving out towards the 4th base, seeing what the army composition is like. And I think Nerchio is looking at these Lings going, really? Are you really going to do that, but allowing them to live anyway? The central destructible rocks are now taken down, and on Daybreak, this is a very important point, guys, because The rush distance on Daybreak is actually pretty large. If you take a look, you come up via the top here, or you go down via the bottom here, as we see Nerchio moving out via here, and it's actually quite a long distance, but the middle distance is pretty darn short. So this will favor the side that can remax faster, and that's what we're going to be looking for in this next engagement. Who is going to remax faster? Ventral Sax now coming down for SortOf, so I wonder if he intends on dropping roaches on top of this army to see if he can pick off some of these infestors and hydras in the background. I don't know, or if he's going to be using them to move into the main base for a bit of harass, maybe take out the hive or something like that. That could also be a possibility. But as far as tech is concerned, SortOf looking like he's in decent shape. He is at 2-2 upgrades right now, only 2-1 upgrades for Nerchio, and SortOf is indeed going to be going very quickly indeed for that greater spire. Now let's see exactly where he put it, because the spire didn't go up very long ago. There we go. He is at the third base location next to the Hydralisk dead, so it looks like he wants to be going for that Broodlord tech pretty quickly here, and I have to say, Nerchio does not have any indication that he's going for it himself. His spire still very much a regular one. So that's a lot of roaches in these drops, and as predicted, it looks like he is going to be using these to move down towards the main base, possibly to snipe off the hive. Let's look at Nerchio's map vision. He does not see any of this coming in. This could be a huge drop for SortOf. I think the hive might go down here unless Nerchio has the most amazing reactions known to man. Let's take a look at Nerchio's vision. There we go. He sees the blob on the south of the minimap, and that was pretty darn quick reactions. Is it going to be fast enough, though? Are the roaches going to start getting dropped? Yes, they are. Here we go. All over the main base. And what's Nerchio going to be able to do about it? The queen goes down. He's targeting the spire, wanting to make sure Nerchio can't get a greater spire. So interesting choice there from SortOf. Could end up proving to be an even better one. Now the hive is at 50% health. He is just going to sack these roaches to kill off the hive here. And the hive is going to go down. A beautiful attack there from SortOf. And he has a couple of infestors here, just giving this Overseer grief a little bit, wanting to make sure he has free reign of this top section of the map so he can harass at will. And this is going to prompt Nerchio into some sort of attack. He's not going to be on hive tech very long at all. We have Broodlords coming out for SortOf now. Even though he's on 156 supply, his tech is gigantically far ahead. So let's see if SortOf can use this tech advantage to do a decent amount of damage, because these Broodlords outrange all of these units fairly comfortably. He's now back up to 186 supply after losing those roaches, and the first Broodlords are now out on the field. Let's compare what these two players have in their armies. 57 to 58 drones, fairly normal. 20 to 17 Hydralisks, and we have a Broodlord with more on the way coming out from SortOf. 34 roaches versus 7. So that's really where Nerchio has an advantage, because a lot of these roaches, of course, died in the main base. Oh, look at those. Oh, look at those larvae. Aren't they really cute? A lot of those roaches died in the main base just now, so it doesn't look like he's going to have that roach advantage at all, but he might not need them if he just has broodlings in his army instead. A couple of roaches now moving in just to see what the army composition of Nerchio is like. Knows that he's not going to be on hive tech for approximately forever, and therefore now decides to morph in all of the Broodlords. And I think this might be a very, very good move for SortOf. Indeed, look at the amount of energy on these infestors. I don't even want to know how many fungal growths that is, because it is approximately disgusting. In the meantime, we have some roaches moving in towards the southern position, but that does absolutely no good. Oh, actually defending with Hydras, meaning he can get a few of them picked off if he's not careful, SortOf losing a few Hydralisks there, but that just allows him to get more and more Broodlords up. Look at this in the center of the map. This is looking like an endgame Protoss versus Zerg composition, ladies and gentlemen. SortOf doing an incredible job here of just holding his opponent at bay while taking up to what he wants. Notice, this has actually been a really patient ZVZ, guys. I don't know if you've noticed, but typically you see 2-base ZVZ, Zergling, Baneling, going crazy, lots of roaches, crazy, and one side usually wins. That hasn't been the case here. We've seen both sides just produce small amounts of prodding in. Oh, here we go. Start the engagement with the infested Terrans, and the Broodlords now make their way onto the field. What can Nerchio possibly do about this? But both sides have just been really patiently prodding at each other, and I really like that a lot. And now the onus is on Nerchio to do something drastic here, because those broodlings are pretty free. Are we going to see some transfusions? No, we need to see some corruption and the fungal growth rather on these corruptors, and a lot of infested Terrans going down. Looks like that is going to be the weapon of choice for SortOf. All of these infested Terrans are blue. You have to take my word on that one. There you go. The health bars have disappeared, but you can see this is a sea of blue right here, and these corruptors are dropping like flies. That is tremendous news for him. Still got a couple of Broodlords in the back. Obviously, a lot of them died, but that's in exchange for most of the army getting down as well. And Nerchio now finally grabs his own Broodlords up. So that must mean that when the hive was going down, he managed to get straight into a lair and hive elsewhere. There we go, at the natural expansion. He must have got that Greater Spire up while I wasn't looking, but sort of with a decent push into the 4th base, a lot of stuff killed, still putting on a lot of pressure here with these infested Terrans, and the 4th base location from Nerchio is going down as well. So definitely advantage sort of here, more infested Terrans using the buffer, and here's the problem. Nerchio only has Hydralisks at this point. They're going to have insanely high DPS, but they're so squishy. Is it going to be enough? It looks like it is, actually. Sheer numbers of Hydralisks, not something I would expect in a ZVZ. Too many Hydralisks means your army is so susceptible to stuff like fungal growth and just marching in with a couple of roaches, but it looks like SortOf may have overextended himself slightly there. He's back up to 194 supply already, but he's almost exhausted all of the energy on his infestors. Now Nerchio moving in with a lot of Hydralisks, but some Broodlords going to be morphing in here, and that might be enough to propel Nerchio back, but he has some brutes of his own. Where are the Corruptors? There they are, and as he overextended, one-shotting those Broodlords almost, and we have Broodlords of his own, and now I think Nerchio realizes, hang on a second, my Hydras can't actually take this barrage of damage. He is forced to move back. Crucially, though, this base still intact. This base was destroyed. So even though SortOf extended himself just a little bit more than he otherwise would have in that engagement, he's going to be laughing all the way to the bank, and I've been looking at this screen all day, ladies and gentlemen, because that is what it's going to come down to in late game macro. SortOf just has so much more to play with right now as Nerchio sacrificing a couple of roaches into this bottom base location. It looks like he will be able to get a couple, and now he's going to be going on those drones as he simultaneously pushes an attack again with Hydralisks. Very risky strategy here through the center of the map, especially with the Broodlords here. I'm not sure he wants to do that just yet. A couple of Broodlords moving up towards the front of this army. Where are the Corruptors? They are here as well. So a couple of Broodlings here for Nerchio, just sort of prodding SortOf here, trying to tempt him, moving into these units here with a couple of fungal growths and the infestors, but SortOf having absolutely none of it. It looks like this southern base position also is being taken by Nerchio. Interesting stuff here indeed. He's going to be, that's a very exposed base location, and he's almost hoping that SortOf doesn't decide to just pick it apart straight away, but it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. This chasm here and this chasm here, great places for Broodlords, especially when you're not against a Protoss and you don't have to worry about storms and vortices. Super useful. But let's see what happens. Is he going to be taking that out? It looks like it. He is sort of moving vaguely towards the bottom of the map there, and no, he's just going to be sending 3 roaches to say, look, you can't get away with this. Don't even try. The drone even going down as well. And now SortOf going to be moving up towards the top of the map. I'm surprised he's allowed Nerchio this much map vision. I wouldn't mind sending a couple of Corruptors out towards the edges of the map just to sort of deny Nerchio that vision. You see via the creep tumors that Nerchio knows SortOf is in this chasm and getting ready to make another attack here. We also have a Ling run by over here at the top base location, but this many Spine Crawlers says, LOL, I don't think so. A lot of Corruptors coming in from Nerchio. Good fungal growth on the Corruptors of SortOf as well. That could limit SortOf's ability to deal with Nerchio's own Broodlords. What are the Corruptor counts right now? Because those numbers are absolutely insane. 22 to 16 Corruptors in Nerchio's favor in terms of Broodlords. We have 6 Broodlords for SortOf and only 3 for Nerchio. So if the Broodlords from SortOf can do a decent amount of damage, this will be great. He needs to start moving those infested Terrans forward. He needs to actually select them and move them forward as well. They will be able to do a decent amount of damage that way. And now the Broodlords are getting into the fray. What do we have? We have Broodlings versus Broodlings, infested Terrans versus infested Terrans. A 100% free army going at it in the center of the map here, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of death is happening right now. Incredible scenes here on Daybreak. But sort of trying to make one final push. His Corruptors coming in from the back and doing an incredible job actually, because they didn't come in until the infested Terrans started getting targeted, and as a result Nerchio losing all of his Corruptors, which means the Broodlords from SortOf able to get free reign at the 39-minute and 45-second mark, ladies and gentlemen. Nerchio gets the GG. SortOf is going to win game number 1.